Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Welcome to the Attorney General's press conference for today, Friday, the 3rd day of February 2017. Today's press statement will focus on two issues: the recent Council of Legal Education meeting of the Executive Committee, and of course the launch of the J.O.F. Haynes Law School of the Americas in Jamaica. However, before the Attorney General reads this statement, well, I should say statements, he would like to make a brief statement regarding attacks from sections of society regarding statements that he supposedly made about the judiciary. AG.
Thank you, Malika. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. I have been observing in recent weeks that I am being accused of attacking the Chancellor and the judiciary. I thought at the last press conference before I left for Jamaica for the CLE conference that I had made it very clear that I had made no attacks on the Chancellor and or the judiciary. I'm going to do it again today. And I'm going to say quite clearly that I reject the contentions that I have attacked the Chancellor and the judiciary. And I wish to also indicate that I have all the relevant media and their claims of my attacks. And I am proposing that the relevant media who claim that I attack the judiciary and the Chancellor, I give them a week to attribute to me what were the statements that I made attacking the judiciary, and failing which I will exercise my options. And I think they believe that they knew my options when I was in private practice, and I think that they believe that I'm somehow hamstrung because now I'm Attorney General. But as I said, during those years and now, that I'm not prepared for anyone to filch my good name. I've practiced 33 years as a lawyer, and there's no report that I tamper with a witness or a jury or any corrupt transaction in my 33 years. I'm very proud of that record. And I found certain media, in fact, champion others who cannot say the same thing that I'm saying. And I could never have understood why they keep championing persons who are criminals and against who all kinds of allegations have been made. But they seem to want to target a person against who no allegations of corruptions have been made. So we wish to get this clear. You have a week to attribute to me my statements attacking the Chancellor and or judiciary. Now, Mr. Jailal Singh is a very good friend of mine, close friend of mine. We've always had a good relationship, he and his family. And it's unfortunate that he has been misled into making the same statements of attacks, but he hasn't identified any attacks by me. And I understand that his daughter is involved in an issue. It could be that because of my good relations with him, that the issue took a long time to really be identified and dealt with. But as I said, these things have to be done. You know, we are trying to change all that was wrong during the last 23 years. And we must expect that there would be resistance. That's why all these attacks are coming my way. I mean, I take it, but you must attribute to me statements I made, and don't attribute to me statements made in the newspapers or other media as being mine. So thank you for that, Malika. And so I'll now read the AGMLA's press statement for February 3rd, 2017. Council of Legal Education, CLE, meeting of the Executive Committee. At the recently concluded meeting of the Council of Legal Education, CLE held in Kingston, Jamaica, January 27 to 28, 2017, the Executive Committee agreed that two committees would be set up to collaborate on the proposal to establish the J.O.F. Haynes Law School of the Americas in Guyana, in keeping with the criteria required for law schools under the auspices of the CLE. The government of Guyana's committee will include representatives of its joint venture partners, the Attorneys General of Jamaica and Guyana, and the CLE's committee will include the chairman of the CLE, Mr. Reginald Armour, senior counsel, the principals of the Within Norma Manley and Eugene D. Pooch Law Schools, and Dr. Leighton Jackson, University Dean for the Faculty of Law, University of the West Indies. The CLE requirements for the establishment of its law schools include matters such as physical plant, staffing, library facilities, and infrastructure inter alia. The feasibility study to be undertaken pursuant to the Memorandum of Understanding between the Government of Guyana and the University College of the Caribbean, Law College of the Americas will encompass those criteria. Launch of the J.O.F. Haynes Law School of the Americas in Jamaica. On January 26, 2017, the project for the establishment of the J.O.F. Haynes Law School of the Americas was launched in Kingston, Jamaica, with an impressive ceremony. Presenters included the Honorable Attorney General of Jamaica, Marlene Maluhu, Ms. Marlene Maluhu Fort, and the featured speaker, the Honorable Minister of Education, Mr. Ruel Reid, both of whom conveyed the support of the Jamaican government for the collaborative agreement. The Red House. After months of silence on the non-approval of the purported lease of the Red House by the former PPPC presidents, Mr. Donald Ramatar has decided to make what can only be described as, and I quote, a late bid, end of quote. Mr. Ramatar is a founding member of the Chedijagan Research Center Incorporated, CJRCI, and a shareholder, and is prepared to accept the charge of conflict of interest and given approval in his own interest for the lease. Ramatar was the person who applied in 2006 for the lease of the Red House. The government, however, rejects Ramatar's, and I quote, late bid, end of quote, as a veiled attempt to plug a lacuna in the application filed by the CJRCI, in which they never mentioned in the Red House lease, had the approval of the former President Donald Ramatar. Moreover, former President Ramatar ought to have been advised that the Commission of Lands and Surveys cannot lease national buildings, national monuments, and heritage sites. Mr. Ramatar's latest bid is reminiscent of a similar intervention to save Mr. Anil Nandalal, who was discovered to have unlawfully taken away law books from the Attorney General's Chambers and Ministry of Legal Affairs, worth nearly $3 million, and is yet to return them despite numerous requests so to do. This ends our statement.
Thank you very much, AG. Members of the media, you had 3 topics there. You can pose your questions on any one of those or the statements made by the AG prior to reading the statement. Please identify yourselves and the media houses that you're representing.
That's good.
No questions?
It seems they accept what we say, so I have to go to court.
Hand up.
Dr. Resource, Richard, just want to ask, you did mention that failing between this time frame given for these
a week.
videos, failing that time frame, you will exercise the option available to you.
Yes.
What options are you talking about?
Well, you know, when I was in private practice, the media, they're very familiar with my options. And it appears they feel I'm weaker being Attorney General, I'm hamstrung in protecting my name, but I don't know where they got that from. You have to be a bit more thin-skinned, but it doesn't prevent me from collecting all the libel materials. And they know that I collect them, you know. I collect them so that the damages would be exemplary damages, over and above the normal damages. So I will exercise my options.
So we can probably look forward.
Let's hope you're not one in the media houses.
No. So it's safe to say, again, failure to produce.
I'm saying they must attribute the statements that Basil Williams made attacking the Chancellor of the Judiciary.
Or else it's a course.
Well, you could draw your conclusions. I said I will exercise my options.
Any other questions? If none, yes, Zoe, sir.
Sometime over the weekend, AG sent out a statement concerning the Deputy Solicitor General. Could you update us on what is going on with that matter? I understand that both parties have made complaints to the commission, so could you update us on what's happening with it?
Well, I have made.
Is she on the job? Is she off?
Okay. Well, I haven't made any complaints to the Judicial Service Commission. I don't know that a minister could make a complaint to make complaints to a commission. But that notwithstanding, when I was in Jamaica, I saw in the newspapers, again, no one contacted me, of course, and an attack on me in my office as Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs. And fortunately, I don't know what caused me in Jamaica to wake up very early that morning and look at the internet, and I saw it. And so I was able to respond immediately, because there's this practice of whenever I'm abroad to release behind my back these libelous articles. And so I would say it's God himself woke me up that morning and alerted me to it. So I was able to respond, and my thoughts were flowing so clearly. And I was able to give a dispassionate account and promise to get even further details in relation to this matter. This was not an overnight matter. I've noticed maybe within 3 months of taking office, maladvice and all these things. I don't know if they had the impression I was just a criminal lawyer. And there are many instances, but of course you have to exercise restraint and hope that people would change. But it's gotten worse. And so I had to respond. I see they're saying I'm attacking her, but am I not? I don't know. The president addressed the media at the recent brunch, and he's asked you to be professional. So how is it I'm being attacked for responding to an attack on me? It just doesn't make sense. And so we show the record clearly. The record, I didn't say, I think Ms. Judy Short, a lawyer here who was supposed to be associated with her in the matter, and she spoke to the media on that. I could tell you that I was in the Court of Appeal after Miss Kisoon didn't turn up. I must say that Ms. Kisoon asked me for leave for the period from the 20th of December to the 21st of January. Now, everyone knows in the public service, and I dare say in the private sector, that you do not get leave in December. And she's asking for leave from the 20th of December for a month to the 21st of January after fixing those cases for early January. Now, when she didn't get approval, she decided to take sick leave. I mean, she was out partying all year's night. I saw that. And so when she decided to file and submit medical claims, and so cover the same period, more or less, that she had asked to leave. In the result, we were left stranded, so to speak, because, I mean, she didn't assign certain cases to other lawyers. And in fact, some cases came up and no one attended. There was an important case, I think it's the Golden Star Exploration, where a decision was to be made on who should be on the appointment of an arbitrator. And no one turned up. She told no one to attend in that court. And the appointment of an arbitrator is very important, because we are saddled with a case with NH Elias, NH International and Emil Elias, a Trinidadian company who came here to build a road since 1995. And an adjudicator was appointed, and the last government never, ever participated in the adjudication. And now the damages, the court award has ballooned to nearly $6 billion. And when you look at it, they're claiming compound interest and all these things, but no one from the last government participated in the adjudication. But now we've asked for the agreements from IDB, etc., and the CCJ, and the agreements show that there's no provision for compound interest, for example. So the people of Ghana, they were abandoned. And so we have to deal with these issues. And so again, not allowing a representative from these chambers on the part of the government to attend at that court to determine who the arbitrator should be is fatal. And so we'll have to find out what the situation is with that. So we have all these things. There's another case where, in the two ministers' case, you saw in the papers that the matter came up in the Court of Appeal, and Mr. Nandalal made statements, and the Chancellor presided. I had no notice. And so when I inquired of Miss Kisoon, how come I didn't get notice of the case, she said that she didn't attend because she did not have notice, and she was in another court. She said it in a room filled with lawyers. It so transpired that I asked the registrar of the court to send me the order made in my absence. And when the order made came, at the meeting, I handed it to the Solicitor General. She read, and then she was alarmed when she saw the order saying it is by consent, after hearing Ms. Pritima Kasoon for the Attorney General. It is by consent. So she, in fact, attended and gave another consent. And these things happen in all the cases that involve the interests of this government, and the opposition is involved. Similarly with the case with Jagio, is Ms. Stewart, who was supposed to be associated with her and who was not in the court when she consented. She gave the release to the newspapers. So could we continue to bleed as only one case? Because our case, the case against the Attorney General filed by Ms. Anna Frank, for example, both the SG and myself asked her to make points in limine, go into jurisdiction, so the case won't go further. That is, Ms. Frank ought to have sued the authority, which is an incorporated body and has its own corporate status, a legal personality. But instead it sued the minister. But last week or so, when we visited Mr. Brassington, Justice Brassington Reynolds, we were informed that no such submissions were made. And so what happened there is that they allowed the affidavits and answer to go in and a reply file, so that by the time now you want to make your points in limine, the court then could tell you, well, let's hear all the submissions in one. But that didn't happen in the Jagio case. Even though the application was filed to strike out since June, no affidavit and answer was filed by December. And why was that? Because she was able to do a submission in limine in relation to challenging the application, viva voce, that is orally. And you would notice that that's the proper time to take the points in limine, to indicate to the court doesn't have jurisdiction to go further. And you would notice in the media that Mr. Nandalal is crying out in my interest, in the state interest, that we haven't filed an answer. Because he suspects that I will make submissions in limine on his application. And that's why we have this phantom affidavit by Mr. Ramatar, which he hopes that he could plug the hole that he left open in his original application. That affidavit is in no man's land. I don't know where it's going to go, because we're going to vigorously oppose any application for it to be deemed proper, because you cannot amend your application to create jurisdiction. So when they file that, if that's the most important thing, I've been talking for months, there was no presidential sanction. Yet they never came out and said, I approved. And you file a court action, which you had to sit down and contemplate what you were writing in that action. And you still fail to submit that President Ramatar sanctioned the lease. Well, so that's the situation. We have many. So as a result of that, I have had to embargo the cases so that we could look to see, because we received a report from Lands and Surveys that an important decision was made against the government that has far-reaching consequences, and I had to check for it. What I checked now is a case where Mr. Nandalal is on the other side and Ms. Kisoon was for the state. And Ms. Kisoon is telling me, I asked her if she appealed the matter. No, she agreed with the decision. So we have to check all the other decisions that she was involved in, because it means that if the lands are issued to people and they don't occupy the lands, they're suggesting that the state can't recover the lands. And that's a very important issue. That's something that should have been appealed. It was under the last government. And so that's where we are.
A follow-up, AP. You have listed a whole, a list of things that this person would have done wrong. What steps are you taking?
Well, I've asked since she's under the public service, I've asked the PS to find out what's the proper procedure. The PS has done inform me she has received communications from the PSC. First, the communication rejected the application by Ms. Kissoon, which she purported a complaint against the Attorney General. I don't think they entertain that. And secondly, she has since, as she had done in the Nanjet case, she has written Ms. Kissoon advising her to proceed on administrative leave or whatever leave, pending the outcome of pending the investigation into all the cases that she had done, especially those involving Mr. Nandalal, etc., and those involving the current government, so that we could have an inventory of what is happening in those cases.
How much administrative leave is she on?
I think, how many months?
72 days.
I think 72 days she's proceeding on. But you know, there's a normal practice. You can't stay on the job whilst an investigation is going on.
And your search for Solicitor General, how is that going?
Well, we've had several applications, and you notice we've been dealing with the parliamentary drafting side, and we'll have to look now at the other side. We need to have, and I've said it from the outset, senior people though. We need to have more senior people at the top of the advisor litigation section, because you know, there are serious issues that are rising, and the young lawyers that are coming out won't have the experience. You have to try and train them up. By the time they reach a certain level, then they branch out, and so we'll have to bite the bullet and employ senior people. It might be at a bit higher salary, but as I said, I inherited two public servants that were among the highest paid. This SG and the DSG were the highest paid. When I came to this office, I found that the office was dysfunctional because there was a divide between the SG, who didn't approve of apparently Ms. Kissoon getting that appointment. She didn't feel that she was qualified for the job. And Ms. Kissoon had her own set of lawyers on her control, and I had to try and resolve those. But those difficulties persisted for all the time that I'm in office. And I don't know what is it they're conveying in the newspapers. Being the highest paid public servants and the nature of their office, they are supposed to advise the Attorney General. But they're making it look as though the Attorney General is a clerk in here and has to do all the work in here, etc. How do you look over the shoulder of persons earning over $1 million a month with benefits? You know, so it just doesn't make sense. And so these things, you know, I'm not going to have no running battle in the public. First thing is that under the public service rules, Ms. Kissoon could not go and make that public declaration that she did.
Are you satisfied with the persons who have applied for the SC job?
But they are being assessed.
And you say how the applications come?
We've had several, even from England, some out of Guyana. So.
So, as an Mr. Williams, you had said in the last press conference about movement and shifting of power from one office to the other.
Yes.
What is the government, or what are you going to do to restore this?
Well, that's something that we're addressing. Look, they were able to do that because they amended the High Court Act. But I believe that all the countries in CARICOM have this dichotomy where there's not no strong man or strong woman in one single office. And I believe that power should be entrenched in our Constitution. It shouldn't be in an act. It should be part of the Constitution reform process, where we should have that entrenched in the Constitution so that it can be easily amended. That is, the Chief Justice would have the administrative direction over the judges of the Supreme Court. The Chancellor will have the similar jurisdiction over the judges of the Appellate Court and also perhaps the magistrates. The whole idea is to ensure that not one person handpicks a magistrate handpicks a judge and then has to sit on appeal of a decision made by the persons that they handpick. There are other problems you have with the judiciary. Is that what they call an tax? Where the Guyanese people have a right to know what is happening? I keep saying, the court sits on the actions of the executive to determine whether they were transparent and accountable. So how come there's a complaint when their actions on the case is addressed? And let me say this very clearly, very clearly. As legal affairs minister, the president has me basically as a person who has a coordinating role and function. And it's my remit to ensure that the legal services offered in this country and the justice that is meted out in this country reaches the standard that is acceptable in any democracy. That is what is important. So it's basically a kind of oversighting function. But when it comes to the judiciary, they have independence when they are presiding in the courts. But there's nothing to tell you that you cannot accurately describe a decision of the court or accurately describe what the facts are in a case dealt with by the court. What is that? And as I said before, the winds of transparency cannot escape. Why would it be that they want to escape having relayed to the Guyanese people the works that they are doing? So we are going to appeal those cases, for example. Is that an attack for me to say we're going to appeal the cases? And secondly, we have to show why we're appealing the cases. And in the case of DIPCON, that is $400 million of taxpayers' money. And that is a case the new government was totally unaware of. That's why months had gone by. It was actually President Jagdeo, former President Jagdeo, who alerted me to that. And when I made inquiries, I was told that there was no file within the ministry and all of these things, that Nandalal had given out it to private practitioners unbeknownst to the Solicitor General, who's head of the litigation section. And so there was a whole mess surrounding that, which would soon come to light. And so we went to the court to appeal out the time, and a matter of public interest, $400 million. And it was not granted, so we will appeal now to the Court of Appeal, seeking leave to appeal to the CCJ. And if the Court of Appeal refuses that, I would do as I did in the Compton Orion case. I will go to the special jurisdiction of the CCJ, which I did in Compton Orion, and which I won, and which is a locus classicus in Ghana. So, we know the options. So what is there? Where's the attack? In explaining to the people what the case is about. In that case, the Court of Appeal did not have a written judgment by the first sentence judge. A case involving $400 million. No judgment was written by the judge who presided over that matter. So is that an attack to say what the facts are? And so that is what is going to happen. If we have to give an accurate account of anything that transpires in a case that we are involved with, we will do so. And what did I say? You need to be accurate with what I said. No, I'm not saying what article you have. I'm saying, what did Basil Williams say? Let's hear it.
You said, I am amused by it, that is the ruling.
Yes.
The move by Chancellor is not without remedy. We will take the case
To the CCJ. I put up my hands. I said that.
The case was dismissed on form and not substance. He hasn't determined the substantive case.
I put up my hands again. Is that an attack?
Okay. Then going further down, there's another
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, this sort of method, could you say whether or not you have filed,
Well, let me say what you just read to me, you haven't answered. Is that an attack? Because that cannot be an attack. Telling the Guyanese people what is the nature of the case and what action I would take.
It would stem from,
What is the other one you're attributing to me?
just give me a second.
That I said he conspired with Ms. Kassoon?
yes.
Well, they must show me where I said that, because I reject that out of hand. Listen, as I told you last press conference, I don't have to do anything or say anything about Mr. Kalsi. I already know, I told you he set a precedent last year with Mr. Chang. I know his retirement date and all those things. So, is it an attack, by the way, if you notice that just before he leaves office, matters involving Jack Dio have been accelerated over thousands that exist?
Well, there were persons who view that comment to be an attack.
Which comment?
That the president was sent for. Yeah.
That the chancellor sent me the information on Mr. Chang, who was acting chief justice, as to when he has to go on retirement leave and then when he has to demit office. That's an attack.
I'm talking about the fact that you said, in the article here, it has a quote attributing to you, I'll read it first.
Whose article is that you're reading from?
Guyana Chronicle.
Oh,
Yes. This is the article where the entire issue began.
well, I admitted to two statements up to now.
Yes.
Yeah.
The sentence is, the Attorney General believes that the move by the Deputy Solicitor General and the Chancellor is, quote, a vain attempt to free Jackie of those cases.
Well, I don't admit to that. I do not admit to that.
Well, that's what I was trying to.
Well, I'm saying I given it 1 week, and they have to prove that I made a statement.
So you're saying that this.
So if it's you,
quote-
if it's Ghana Times, you have a week.
But this one is okay.
Who are the media entities you're talking
You said
about?
whoever, don't name.
The Ghana.
I'm saying you representing Ghana Times.
Yes.
I have your papers in the stock.
I know, but who else? Which other media?
No, I don't have to discuss. They know themselves.
Okay, but so
I
this-
want to wrap up on this issue. So Isa has another question. Go ahead. The final issue
Yes,
question
so
on this
just
issue.
to make it clear, this comment that you made that the Guyana Chronicle attribute to you,
He didn't make that
that
comment.
it was a quote vain attempt to free Jackie of those cases, is that you didn't
I
say-
thought I made myself very clear about what I admitted. I reject that out of hand.
So I saw a question.
There's something about conspiracy between the two of us and all that. Some other people using conspiracy. So
Questions, Isa.
Two questions, Mr. Williams. You had said that you would file appeals to the CCJ in Bitcoin and the Judicial matter. Have you done that? And
not to the CCJ. We're saying that we will have to appeal the matter. The first approach is going back to the CCJ,
which one?
the DEPCON matter.
Okay.
Because that deals with an issue of appealing, making an application for an extension of time to file a notice of appeal. And as I told you earlier, we had no notice of it, so we couldn't file an appeal within time. And there's a precedent in another case in the Court of Appeal, which involved a stelling. When I came into office, I understood that we lost a stelling. So I asked, how could you lose a stelling? And it turned out to be Vina Hoop stelling. So my dear upon said, but we have to appeal. And the appeal was even from a longer period than this one. And the appeal and the application for an extension of time was upheld by the Court of Appeal, even on the grounds that it was involved a matter of public interest. And we also believe that $400 million of taxpayers' money also is a matter of public interest. And since the matter has been concluded and is not pending, I could go on further to say that in that case, the monies that are claimed could have only been paid if the IDB had signed on. And there was no evidence in the case that the IDB had signed on to that condition. And so it's a clear case that people are claiming money on an IDB contract, with IDB never approved of it.
And the job you matter, sir, instead of you.
Well, the Jaguar matter in law, the rubric that he had omitted to put Charlene Ortega on it. And there are Court of Appeal decisions that say the question therefore is whether what was before the court is whether it's a true copy. And I, for example, in an election petition, we had, in 2006, we had 2001. So what did that mean? That the court would show the matter? It's only a matter form. So the court had to examine whether the other side was deceived, whether the other side was deceived by the copy that was before it. So all this would have required is a simple amendment as they did in that, but something as important as the election petition. And include Ms. Ortega's name.
So you file the appeals.
So that we would file an appeal with her name in it, and we'll have to file, a notice for an extension of time to do it out of time.
We'll take one final question.
That really hoops still in. Is it not still in the court?
It is. In fact, we have to look at it because, as I said, it was one of those things that should have been appealed right away. And no appeal was done. I had to come in the office, ask them to appeal months later. That's the kind of thing that I inherited.
Are you meeting with Mr. Nandal on Wednesday?
Yes, I wrote him when I came back from Trinidad this week. Yesterday, I think, I sent a letter. I called him first, and we agreed a time. And it's next Wednesday at 2 o'clock.
Thank you very much, AG. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, that concludes our press briefing. Thank you.
It's very good.
Going to court today?
Yes. Yes, I have to go to court at 3. Huh?
Put it up.
How about what?